All right, let's get into it. Today we're talking about a gas with a serious identity crisis. On one hand, it's a major climate villain, but on the other, it could be an unexpected hero. Let's unpack that.
So, here's a weird one for you. What on earth connects a cow to your kitchen stove? I know, it sounds pretty out there, right? But stick with me because the answer uncovers this really powerful, kind of hidden link in how we get our energy. And to figure that out, we've got to introduce our main character for today, a gas called methane.
Okay, so what exactly is methane? Well, at its most basic, it's just a gas. It's one of the three states of matter. It doesn't have a fixed shape, so its particles will just expand and fill up whatever space you put them in.
And if you could zoom in like way in, you'd see it's made up of these things called molecules. Think of them as tiny little building blocks, the smallest possible particle of methane that still has all its physical and chemical properties.
Its chemical code is CH₄. That just means it's got one carbon atom right in the middle with 4 hydrogen atoms bonded to it. Super simple, right? A really basic structure. But don't let that fool you. That simplicity hides a pretty massive impact on our world.
All right, so now let's get into the messy part. Why does methane have such a bad rap? Let's talk about its role as the villain in our climate story.
So where is all this stuff coming from? Well, a lot of it is natural. You've got cows and other farm animals, you've got all the trash decomposing in landfills, but, and this is a big but, a huge amount of it is also released because of us, through things like extracting coal, oil, and natural gas. And that's really the key here. It's our human activities that are pumping more and more of this gas into the air every single year. The levels are just going up and up.
Now, why is that such a big deal? Because methane is what we call a greenhouse gas, and it's a really potent one. It acts kind of like a heat-trapping blanket for the planet. The more methane we have in the atmosphere, the thicker that blanket gets.
And the result of that thicker blanket? Well, you guessed it. All that extra trapped heat means the whole planet starts to warm up. That's global warming in a nutshell, and methane is a major player in speeding it all up.
But hang on, that's not the end of the story. Not even close. What if we could take this problem and completely flip it on its head? This is where things get really interesting. A huge twist in the tale.
Okay, check this out. It turns out we can actually capture this troublesome gas. The process starts by collecting all that waste from farms or landfills and storing it in these big tanks. As it all breaks down, it releases methane, but instead of letting it escape, we harvest it. And then we've got options. We can use that gas to drive turbines and make electricity, or pump it straight into the gas system for heating and cooking.
So what we're really doing is turning a problem into power. We're taking something that would have been pollution and turning it into a resource we can actually use. It's pretty amazing, kind of like modern-day alchemy.
And think about the benefits here. I mean, it's a total win-win. We're generating electricity for the national grid, providing gas for our homes, and at the same time, we're cutting down on how much we need to rely on other fossil fuels. It's like tackling two big problems with one smart solution. Which brings us to this really fascinating paradox, right? Methane is like a molecule with two completely different sides to it, a real split personality.
So let's break down those two faces. On one side, you have the problem. If we just let it escape into the atmosphere, it traps heat and makes global warming worse. But on the other side, you have the solution. If we capture it, it becomes a valuable fuel that gives us heat and electricity and helps us use less of those other fossil fuels. So that brings us back to our original question. Is methane a villain or an unlikely hero? And maybe the answer isn't that simple. Maybe it's both. And which one it becomes, well, that really just depends entirely on what we decide to do with it.